Good morning. We've been talking about the Eightfold Noble Path, and today I want to talk about right intention or right thought. So as you may recall, we talked about right speech, and then right livelihood, and right action. And these are the three of the Eightfold Noble Path. These are the three that have to do with ethics or morality: right speech, right livelihood, and right action. And then we moved into the wisdom section of the Eightfold Noble Path. And last time we talked about right understanding or right view. And today I want to talk about right intention. Right intention begins with our breath. Everything that we need starts here with our breath. The breath is the foundation of our practice. It's the foundation of mindfulness. It's the first foundation of mindfulness. And everything comes out of breath. Breath is life. Breath is action. Breath is speech. Breath is our practice. Well, everything is breath. So breath is when we really learn with our practice to bring what we think of as two different things together. So we often think of our mind and our body as separate. And as we practice sitting, following our breath, really letting our breath settle into our lower belly, where our intuition lives, or our hara. As we practice, letting our breath settle and letting our thoughts settle. As you all know, we follow our breath. Thoughts arise. We notice them. We let them go. And we return to the breath over and over and over. The breath, which is, of course, always here because we're alive. The breath is the constant that we come back to over and over. And as we do this consistent and continuous return, what we think of as our thoughts and our body start to really come together. And we no longer separate them out. We can let go of our thoughts about what we think of as the past. We can let go of our thoughts of what we think of as the future. And just simply be present in this moment. The entire universe is here in this breath. This is the essence of right thought. The teachings on right thought or right intention that come to us from the Buddha tell us that there are three components. One is letting go of the self, or selfless renunciation. Number two is goodwill. And number three is non-harm. So selfless renunciation, letting go. Love or goodwill, and non-harm. You might have noticed that all three of these are contained in the breath. As we focus on our breath and let go of our thoughts, we let go of the idea of me as a separate self from you. We start to come together. As we let go of our thoughts and focus on our breath, bodhicitta, or Buddha mind, goodwill, starts to naturally arise out of our breath. And as this bodhicitta naturally arises, the thought of harming anyone becomes abhorrent to us. The thought of harming any being in the universe becomes abhorrent not only because of our goodwill, but because we understand that we're not separate. That when I harm you, I'm also harming myself. So we focus on letting go of our desires, letting go of ill will, letting go of harm. And we do this through our breath as the central component of right thought. This week we had an incidence of violence in the Asian community. And in many ways, it did not feel surprising. This is something we've been talking about all year in the Buddhist Council of New York, and thinking about what we can do to meet it with love, with care, and even had a meeting planned this week to plan a walk together as a community. So we were not surprised, and yet we were so sad. But with right thought, with the understanding that I am not separate from you, with the understanding of bodhicitta or goodwill, with the understanding that of course we don't harm each other. With right thought, this would have never happened. And yet we do live in a world where these things happen every day. How do we meet them? What do we do when these terrible things come up that just break our hearts? You know, we celebrate the spring equinox today and feel imbued with a sense of hope and possibility. Spring. The crocuses are coming out in some places. The snow is melting. The animals are having babies. There's a new possibility. We get this new possibility in every single breath that we take. Every single breath allows us another chance at life. So in the face of these terrible things, we also have a sense of infinite possibility. Each breath brings us renewed life. Our intention in Buddhist practice is to really help shine the way for us. So I sometimes hear people say, you know, I just do what's in front of me. And that's true in many ways. I just do what's in front of me means I meet this present moment, what's right here. And without right intention, we become buffeted around by the world. So our intention really leads us. I think of it like a flashlight. It pulls us forward. So we have to understand our intention before we can recall it. And we really have to understand it out of our deepest practice, out of our gut, out of our hara. And we find it through our breath, through practicing with breath, letting the mind settle, and allowing our deepest intention to very naturally arise. And of course, as we've mentioned in the past few weeks, informed by the path under our feet as we walk, this path brought to us by the Buddha and by the ancestors, this path that teaches us how to be in the world. We don't have to make anything up. Everything that we need is here. We have only to take advantage of it and do it. So as we sit and let our mind settle, let go of the idea of a separate self, allow bodhicitta to naturally arise, and the wish to not harm naturally arise. We can encourage our intention to naturally arise as well. I think of it as, think of your lower belly. My hand is up here now because of this camera, but think of your lower belly as your hand really gently holding just below your navel. And in that hand, which is open and full of possibility, we can allow our deepest questions to rest right here. We don't have to bring them up here and pull them apart and think and think and think and think and think. We let them settle and rest. One of the teachers I practiced with in Japan encouraged us to practice in this way. He would tell us to find our essential question or our gimon, and to sit with that essential question until the answer naturally arises. What is your gimon? What is your essential question? It takes getting ourselves out of the way before we can even figure that out. And once we start to get a sense of what our essential question might be, then it can inform our practice intention. So formulating our intention, which is something we revisit usually every year at the new year, and then we revisit every day as we start our practice, takes work. We can't just magically create something if we don't know what we're doing or why we're here or how we're going to practice. We can't remind ourselves of our intention if we don't know what it is. And our intention may be something as big as being enlightened for the benefit of all beings. That encompasses everything. You have to make it your own. You have to really take it in and allow it to arise of its own accord. And this is how right intention or right thought works in us. It's not something that we get from somewhere else. It's something that every other aspect of the path informs. I think you might remember that I shared with you in the Eightfold Noble Path how they all inform each other. And I'm going to share that picture with you again just to remind you. So this is from Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh's book, The Heart of Buddha's Understanding. Everything informs each other. We don't pick apart some of it and leave other parts. It's all right here in right thinking or right thought. You can see the arrows coming from every other section. And this is how our practice works. It's not like we do this, and then we do this, and then we do this, and then maybe if that goes okay, then we do this. No, they're all working together simultaneously. But again, we don't have to make it up. It's all readily available to us through the teachings. We just have to do it. And we have to mess up, right? We've talked about that so much lately. Mistakes are our practice. They're part of the practice. They're what gives us feedback on how to correct. So as we practice and we mess up, we come back, we try again, and we keep going. And we have the Sangha, the community, to hold us when we mess up. We have the teachings to inform us on what to do. And we have our own inner teacher. This is the teacher that is our Buddha nature. And when these three are in harmony, then we have mutual accountability. Of course, Dogen Zenji has something to say about intention. So this is from the Sesshin Sessho, which means, I guess, like expressing one's nature, one's true nature, through expressing our intention. And I was thinking a lot about, I'm sorry for the sound, the path or the Buddha's way. So Dogen Zenji says that the Buddha's way is the Buddha's way even when one first gives rise to the intention to train. So from the moment we're sitting here, we already are the Buddha's way. The Buddha's way is the Buddha's way when one first gives rise to the intention to train, and it's the Buddha's way even when one fully realizes the truth. So the Buddha's way is the beginning, the middle, and the end. It's comparable to someone walking for thousands of miles. When walking 10,000 miles, all one can do is take one step at a time. And within 10,000 miles are tens of thousands of steps. Even though the first step and the 10,000th step are different steps, even though they're different, all of it is simply the act of walking 10,000 miles. And at the same time, folks who have reached the height of folly believe that during the time when one is studying the Buddha's way, one hasn't yet realized the Buddha's way. For only when one's gone beyond Buddhahood is it really Buddha's way. They're like this because they don't know that the whole way is expressing the way, that the whole way is practicing the way, and the whole way is our realizing the way. People do this because they've been taught that only deluded people experience the great realization through their training and practice. And as a result, they don't realize that non-deluded people also experience great realization through their training and practice. So this might sound familiar to you. Remember last week when we were talking about karma? That karma is something that we co-create through our actions. Karma is something that happens because of how we are and as a result of how we are simultaneously. So this is the same with intention. As we really get to know our intention and follow our intention shines brighter within. This is the path before us as we walk. It's not a passive thing. And we can't separate out, well, I would like to know my intention, because that process of practicing to understand my intention is already my intention fulfilling itself, right? So this is how the practice really feeds us. It helps us to understand that the entire universe is practice and keeps us, remember I talked about the separation that pulls us apart. It keeps us from parsing it out like that and brings us back to wholeness. The path underneath our feet is the same path. When we're on this path and practicing, this is realization. This is Dogen's perspective on this. So it seems, if the words seem slippery, we just have to do it and try it out and see what happens. And when we're doing that, then we're already enacting the way. So it's very similar. I was thinking of this today as we celebrate the spring equinox. So Ohigan, or the spring equinox, is traditionally Higan is about crossing over to the other shore. So there's this belief that, between life and death, or practice and realization, or enlightenment and non-enlightenment, we cross over to the other shore. And this crossing over during the time of the equinox recognizes this. But Dogen has, of course, his own perspective. So this is arriving at the other shore, or paramita. Although the other shore does not have the appearance or trace from olden times, arriving is actualized. Arriving is the fundamental point. So don't think that practice leads to the other shore, because there's practice on the other shore. So when you practice, the other shore arrives, because this practice embodies the capacity to actualize all realms. We have to really deeply investigate this, because there is practice on the other shore. When we practice, the other shore arrives. So the duality of the shore, this shore and that shore, becomes transcendent. And this is paramita. This is our practice. This is what we actualize as we sit and breathe. Everything comes out of the breath. Everything is created through the breath, and everything is actualized through the breath. The breath is the center. The breath is. There is nothing but the breath. And in really investigating this deeply, leads us to understand right intention, right thought. When we no longer have to separate out here and there, but actualize in each moment, then we really start to bring our practice together. So today I want to really strongly encourage you to let this sink in to your body, through your pores, through your breath. Not so much here. Right thought comes from deep in your hara, in your lower belly. It comes from the bottom up, not so much from the top down. And it's freely available to all of us at all times. Thank you.